Hey, how's it going? So it's been a long time since I made a video. Thought I would check in with y'all. I'm thinking a couple different things that I want to share with you, and I was just thinking about how science and religion have always been at odds with one another. And we had the early explorers back like around the 1500s, and they we had people that believed that the Earth was flat, the flat earthers, and because eventually we found out that the Earth wasn't flat, and that kind of got me thinking about stuff, and I was like, if we were wrong about that back then, who knows what else we were wrong over the years, right? Just like the old Salem witch trials, they used to believe people were witches and all of a sudden, so they'd burn them at the stake, and these people probably weren't witches, it was ridiculousness. And then you got the guys like Galileo, the astronomer, who started presenting stuff to the church, and they were like looking at him like this is heresy, he was presenting ideas and things, and the stuff that he brought forth, later on turned out to be true, and he was, vindicated. But, I think he was, I can't remember the whole story, if he was like ridiculed and, embarrassed and shamed, and I don't know if he was kicked out of Rome, wherever he was at, but he was not well received. But the thing of it is the guy turned out to be right. And so what I was going to use that for was a platform for, you've got today's modern critics of Christianity or modern critics of religion in general, and and some are self-proclaimed atheists, and others are like maybe not quite, maybe an atheist, maybe they're agnostic or whatever. But guys like Richard Carrier and Robert Price and there's a number of other people that are out there. In my mind, these guys are like they're like the Galileos. These are like the Christopher Columbuses of the time that were going out there and they're sifting the information. They're well-accomplished, well-respected historians. Price and Carrier. So it's like, yet, when you see them in these debates, they're not necessarily treated that way. They're not, they're treated like, they're just a lone voice crying in the wilderness, that's no one's listening to them. And it's like, no, there's a lot of people listening to them, and I think people should listen to them. So, but it's like, just like with Galileo, they didn't want to listen to what he had to say, because, the things he was bringing forth was heresy, and how dare he say the things that he was saying. It's like, and it's that same response with Carrier and Price. People are looking at them like, there's no credibility there. They're just some whack job. There's, some harebrained ideas, and nobody believes. The number of scholars out there don't believe the thing, and that's what the types like William Lane Craig and others will say. Nobody, out of the the New Testament scholars out there, there's hardly anyone that believes. It's like an attempt to try to discredit these men instead of looking at the merit of their argument. And say, well, that's what they're looking at. It's ridiculous. The argument to say that, Jesus never lived, or Jesus was a myth, or Jesus was a legend. Well, there's lots of legends that were back then. So why are we to believe that this one particular time that Jesus is not a myth and not a legend? Oh, well, because, and that's where all the apologetics come in, where you have to try to, say, it's because of this and because of that. And it's like, well, it doesn't necessarily mean that Jesus was a real figure, a historical figure. It's a bit of to me, there would be no debate and no argument if it was that conclusive, if we had all the data, if we had all the information to prove that Jesus was a real person, or that maybe Jesus was a real person, but the evidence that we're supposed to believe is the Bible, the New Testament Gospels, which is riddled with all these problems that Christians don't want to admit that are there. And if you listen to Richard Carrier, if you listen to Robert Price, you learn all about them. And it's not harebrained ideas. When you look, you're like, damn, he's right. That is there. That we're supposed to believe in all these miracles, as if miracles could prove anything. The Bible even speaks out about miracles, that he who comes forth and, producing all these miracles, you should be careful, because there was sorcerers and things in that time. So how would you be able to know, we know that he's the true Messiah because of all the miracles he can perform? And it's just like, whatever. I'm not, like I said, I'm not buying it. You're going to have to sell me a lot harder on it, than just saying, everything you need to know is in the Bible, when yet there's these people out there spitting all this controversial, contradictory stuff that kind of sticks. It'd be one thing if they're like, Richard Carrier's ideas, he's a well-respected historian, he's educated, he knows what he's talking about. It's not like he's some fly-by-night quack, nut job, he's not a loon, nor is Robert Price. These guys are well educated and they know, they've read, they're well read, and so it's a shame that like I said, with the early explorers and stuff, they were kind of like discredited and looked upon as like, until later on they were proven to be. So I'm just saying, why can't we allow for that same possibility with today's modern critics of Christianity and religion? Maybe they're right. Maybe all these thousands and thousands of years, we've gotten it wrong in putting our faith and our trust in something that wasn't actually real. I'm just saying, can't we allow for that possibility? Or no, that's heresy, just like back in the day of Galileo. No, we're not allowed to think that way. You can't go up against the church. You can't present any information that would, how dare they present something that's, contradictory to what they believe. It's like, that's the thing that's beautiful. We live in a day and age where you're not going to be burned at the stake for stuff like that. We live in a world, for the most part, where people can speak their mind, and dissent and disagree, even about things of a religious nature. But it's just, I don't know. I've heard over the years where people have said, religion has caused more wars and all this other, and it's like, I don't think that was the intent of religion. I don't think it was to cause war. I think man got a hold of that and corrupted and perverted it, and then we started jihad and we started all this stuff that, that they believe in their hearts that they're right, but what reference point do they have globally? Like, if you live in the United States, like where I live, we have a wealth of knowledge and information available to us. How much information in those Middle Eastern countries do they have? I mean, they study the Quran, and and that's fine. I'm not dissing the Quran. I have utmost respect for anybody in their faith, but it's like they're not willing to consider anything else, any other possibilities. The Jews, they're not willing to give up their Judaism, and and spend thousands of years. And it's like, what's going on here, man? You guys just don't give up the ghost. They keep waiting for the Messiah that's supposed to return, just like the Christians, and it's just like nobody wants to let go of their precious religion. And it's like, allow for the possibility that you could be wrong, that you could be duped. I mean, I allow for the possibility that I could be misled and led astray by all these atheists and agnostics and these critical scholars of the Bible, and it's like. But some people are so rigid, they're not willing to move. And it's like, well, can't help you then, I guess. But I allow for the possibility that I could be the one wrong. Why can't you? Why can't other people? That's all I'm advocating for. I'm not saying that I'm right. Damn, I could be wrong. Well, then you're going to burn in the pits of hell. Well, one would hope that a loving God would understand that I was only trying to seek the truth. And if not, well, then I guess I get what I deserve, right? Well, that's a hell of a gamble to spend the rest of your eternity in weeping and gnashing of your teeth as your flesh is burning. I don't know if that's even real or not, and you don't know if it's real or not. So why do we even worry about something that we don't even know? So yeah, it's just been amazing when I look back and I think about history and science always being at odds. Science is trying to disprove God, and not necessarily disprove it, but trying to come up with other theories and hypotheses that could explain our existence. And there's a lot of information out there that sort of, it's an amazing universe. And so you have to wonder, is there some kind of intelligent design or not? I mean, I think it's a normal deduction to deduce and to come to that conclusion. Like, wow, look at this massive universe. Look at the galaxies out there. I mean, it's infinity. It goes on and on and on. So how could we be the only ones out there? But how do we then begin to explain? Well, what? Maybe God's an alien. Maybe it comes to us. Maybe Jesus, is a UFO. And it's like, when does it stop? I mean, I don't know. It seems kind of far-fetched, but I guess we could allow for that possibility. I'm not any kind of one of those people that, I'm like, oh, I'm a UFO guy. I'm not into it. But I mean, I got to allow for the possibility. I just think there's not a lot of evidence for it. Just like the evidence that we're supposed to believe in the New Testament Gospels about the life of Jesus, I just really think it's been passed down and stories been retold, and it's just, I don't think much of what we have is really a historical record, and that's what Richard Carrier believes in, Robert Price, and many others, and so it's not just me and my harebrained ideas. Say, oh, well, you just latch a hold of these other guys' harebrained. I think these guys are well respected. Now, I understand the apologists, the William Lane Craig and some of the other guys that are out there. What's his name? Gary Habermas, I think is his name. These guys, they're not going to let go for nothing. I mean, their faith is rock solid, and that's, I guess it's commendable to an extent that they want to hold true to that and everything. I mean, I understand that, faith is very personal and everything. I'm not advocating for anyone to abandon their faith, but I just think when you lay everything out, like what Richard Carrier says, and you listen to, he's a well-respected historian, and you hear his alternative explanation for everything, that sounds more plausible to me than the stories that we read in the Bible that we're supposed to believe.